All right, hey guys, welcome back to We Talk Money. Today we have a very special guest, someone that we did an interview a few years ago, pre-COVID, and now we're back in Bali. Leanne Nova, hey.
Hi,
welcome.
I'm happy to be here.
Yeah.
Great to finally catch up again.
It is, it's great. So much has happened over the past few years, and I want to hear all about what you've been up to, life in Bali, building a house, talk about the markets, your trading, all that good stuff.
Yeah, excellent. I look forward to it.
You're pretty connected in the community too, right? You talk with a lot of our students, like one-on-one, and
yes,
I'm curious to hear how you've utilized the community. Because didn't you say you've done business deals with some of our members and just done?
I mean, I'm very well connected to some of the members after so long.
Yeah.
So I feel like they're friends.
Yeah.
And if I was just to meet them, like we all know each other now, but if I was just to meet them, I'd be just instantly know them. But yeah, some of them are great. I mean, I don't know, have I done business deals with them?
I thought maybe I don't know, but
it's possible I've forgotten.
You've certainly helped a lot of our
you've
community
helped
members.
a lot of
Yeah.
people. Yeah.
Your wisdom
sure.
and knowledge has definitely gone a long way. You're like a super member.
Supernova.
Yeah, there
super
we go.
member.
So for anybody that doesn't know you, that is listening or watching the show, maybe just give a quick background on who you are, what you do, and what you've been up to the past few years since we interviewed you last.
Yeah. So I'm a professional trader now. So I had a career change. I used to be a teacher. I've been a designer, own my own business, blah, blah, blah. But now trading is my passion. And I was in Skill Incubator. I started around 4.5 years ago now. And as you know, trading is a long journey. And mastery takes a long time, so it's a profession I'm still mastering. But I've come a long way since we last interviewed. And since then I've built a house in Bali, which has been a fabulous learning opportunity outside of trading. So that was an interesting trade to make by putting some money towards a property in Bali.
I like how you referenced it as that.
Yes.
Everything in life is a trade, every big decision.
A risk to reward. And the reward for me was not having a mortgage, having a base here in Asia. It was paid off and I didn't have to think about it. And it was something that was mine I actually got it for 15 years. So, yeah.
Yeah, so the weird thing about Bali is real estate is a little bit different, right? What's the basics of like how people typically buy real estate here and what that looks like?
Yes, so typically it's a leasehold. Freehold is a different set of rules and it's a little bit tricky, but for foreigners, the best way to go about property in Bali is to get a leasehold. And usually the maximum is around 30 years. And you can rent the land and then build your own house. You can also sell your lease to anybody. So leases are tight. I like them because it protects the leaseholder. And usually you can build some sort of relationship with the landlord. You can extend leases sometimes. So for me, I took a smaller lease because of the circumstances of the land. The owners wanted that land back in 15 years and I was okay with that because I actually only wanted the house for that long because I'll probably do another property investment at some point in time and I might do something else with that property. So yeah, a leasehold is the way to go here. You don't get a sort of a 30-year mortgage. It's a 30-year lease.
So basically you're doing a long-term lease on the land and you're sinking the cost of the house, right? So it's, most people, like in the States, they think of their house as a long-term investment.
Exactly.
It's going to go up in value. Basically, you know that whatever money you put in to build a house, you're actually losing that, right?
Yes, you're outlaying that straight up.
Yeah. And so it's different, right? Like the cost of home ownership in the States is property taxes, insurance, mortgage interest, maintenance, right? And then the idea is that over time, that's hopefully going to appreciate, where here it's like you calculate the total cost to build and the land lease and you amortize that, say 15 or 30 years, and that's your true cost, right?
Absolutely. So if you look at like mortgage, the average mortgage in Australia is around 600,000. In other states, it's up in Sydney and stuff, it's up to around 800,000. So if you take those statistics and you sink an amount of money into a property that you're willing to put up as almost rent for that long, then you have that money available for other opportunities, whether it's trading or more property deals. So for me, putting in upfront amount of capital that could be used and averaged out as X amount per year, whether it's $8,000 a year, $6,000 a year, whatever that works out to, I was really happy with. And then I freed up all of my other capital for trading or other opportunities that come along, rather than being tied to a mortgage and not having free capital.
It's interesting because in the States, it's like if you're not owning, you're screwing yourself financially.
That's what people believe.
Which is a myth, right? And there are so many variables there.
Absolutely.
But here, it sounds like it still has some of the vibes of getting a 30-year fixed mortgage in the United States, because you're hedging inflation by locking in that yearly price of your home, of your housing. So it's kind of like a hybrid benefits of owning, but with the flexibility of leasing. It's very interesting. And you can also sell the lease for more than what you've put into it.
Yes.
So there's the equity factor of it too. So it's kind of like the best of both worlds in a way.
And you do have the clock working against you. So if you do get a 30-year lease, then sometimes, you know, obviously every year it's going down, 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 down. But I've worked out that even after, let's say, 5 or 6 years, I can still sell my lease. I can recoup all of my capital. And so I'm comfortable with the risk I've taken, and that I can get my money back.
Makes sense.
Yes.
So at the end of the day, you get to live in Bali, have your own place, have an awesome quality of life for way cheaper than in Aussie or the US.
I had a mortgage in Australia, and I did not like having a mortgage. I always felt like I had a noose around my neck. And that's not to say that's not for other people, but for me, it was too restrictive on my life. And now when I look what I've done, I'm like, I have no stress about where to live. That's my base. I love Bali. And yeah, it's paid off for the foreseeable future. So, yeah.
And how are you able to stay here long term? Because, you know, a lot of people, when they come here, they're on like a visa on arrival for 30 or 60 days, but you were able to get something a lot more long term, right?
Yeah, so I've moved into an investor's visa, which is available also. And if you do spend a lot of time here and you do invest in Bali, it's a great thing to have. And that allows you flexibility with coming and going, and certain benefits, like when I had to go to the hospital, and you get certain benefits around that. So you get discounted rates and so forth because you're a resident here now. So it is beneficial in many other ways other than just the stay terms. Yeah.
Nice.
And I know for us, we're thinking about doing this as well, because having to do visa runs and, you know, flights to Singapore, things like that, that's kind of a pain in the ass if you're going to be here longer term.
Yes.
So I think we were calculating it's like $2,000 or $3,000 US for a couple of years.
Yes.
Works out to be like $100 a month.
Yep.
And like you said, you can come and go as you please, right? Like, to me, that just makes sense. If you're going to be here for a few months out of the year, why not just do that and not have to deal with all the...
Yeah, if you've chosen Indonesia as one of your bases, it's a smart thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. What else is going on, guys? Markets have pulled back a little bit since last week.
Powell panic what?
I mean, I have to admit, I thought Friday's the Powell's speech was going to be a nothing burger, and I was wrong. So I admit I was wrong. I was really shocked. I mean, I figured he was going to come out and say, you know, listen, we're still committed to fighting inflation. You know, financial conditions had eased, which the Fed doesn't want. You know, they want financial conditions to stay tighter so that they can get the inflation problem under control. I knew he was going to come out and be a little bit more aggressive, but I did not expect Powell to come out and say what he did on Friday. It was an 8-9 minute speech.
Did you listen to it? You read the transcript?
I read the transcript.
I listened to it. He was basically like, I'm going to put us into a recession if I have to.
More or less.
That's basically what he said.
Yeah. He said he said he's okay with growth below trend. He even used the phrase, you know, potential pain for households and businesses, which I was very surprised by. And the market did not like that. Stocks, crypto, all down heavily on Friday and Saturday.
You were surprised that he postured? Because I guess I've been hearing him kind of, we're going to do what it takes, and kind of trying to be the big bad, you know, Fed chair and show people he's going to fight inflation. So I guess for me, I've been hearing kind of hints of that anyway.
Well, I guess what surprised me was that we just got the meeting minutes from the July Fed meeting, and in that meeting, he didn't sound as confident in being aggressive on rate hikes. He acknowledged that they had gone aggressive in the first 6 months of the year, and he said, but we'll give ourselves leeway to pause if we need to. He kind of hedged his language there in the July meeting. And then just a couple weeks later, he comes out and goes, full on spring mode again, where he was like, we're going to get this under control no matter what it takes. We need to tighten financial conditions. And those lines about causing potential pain to households and businesses is really surprising.
That's what got the market.
Yeah. Because the second mandate of the Fed is unemployment, keep unemployment low.
Yeah.
But he acknowledged that there's still a very tight labor market and that there's plenty of job openings per job seeker. So right now they're like, we're going to put this unemployment thing aside and we're going to go head on and fight inflation.
Yeah. That does seem like the more immediate big concern, especially with like oil prices and energy prices in Europe and things like that. I mean, it's looking pretty scary out there.
There is a big debate here, though, which is particularly in places like Europe, and we should talk about the energy crisis. But there's a big debate about, does it really do a lot of good if they raise rates to 5 or 6% in the short-term interest rates, and that means businesses are going to have to borrow capital at 8, 9, 10%. How does that help an industry like energy, which needs typically debt capital to finance long-term projects?
Yeah.
That doesn't help. That actually could hurt the supply response for energy. And there's a lot of people questioning, well, I get that rates could hurt demand and potentially put us in recession, which might have an effect on demand, but you're not solving the key supply side issues with rate hikes, and particularly in a place like Europe, right? Parabolic natural gas prices, parabolic energy prices could potentially bankrupt thousands, maybe tens of thousands of small businesses across Europe. It's a true crisis. How does raising rates there, which they're also talking about raising rates aggressively, how does that help at a time when businesses and individuals are in crisis seeing their electricity bills go up 10x? How does higher interest rates help that?
Right. I think that we are coming into a period of time where policy makers can make some really, really big mistakes here, and it'll like go down in history, and it'll screw a lot of people. So I think that, I don't know what the resolve to that is, but it just seems like everyone kind of just has their head in their ass and doesn't know what the hell to do. It's like you've got the Fed flip flopping. Okay, we're raising rates. We're gonna be aggressive and fight. Okay, well we'll see what the data says. And then they're flip flopping. It's like nobody freaking knows what to do right now. It feels.
So what are the proposed solutions? Right, obviously Russia cut off the supply. What are the alternatives here, or is it a really bleak situation?
Well, it is bleak, but there are possible solutions. There are ways to fix this. It does take some time, but the Europeans at the supranational level are having an emergency meeting on Friday to discuss possible changes to the structure of the way that the electricity is priced for individuals and businesses. So just really quickly, without going too much into detail, it's kind of a weird system that ties gas prices to electricity prices in Europe across most of those countries, where the marginal cost of gas or the marginal cost of electricity for the marginal producer, the producers at essentially the highest cost level is allowed to make a profit. And so what that means is instead of locking in, part of the power prices at a low price and then having the swing factor on the last 10 or 20% at high prices, the entire electricity bill for many consumers and businesses are priced on the marginal price, meaning when that electricity price goes up 10x or gas goes up 10x, everything, including renewables, gets priced off of that price. So the way that is structured is problematic in a crisis like this. And so they're talking about potentially changing the marginal pricing structure, which I think would potentially be a solution to go after. But then beyond that, you've got to get nuclear back in the mix as stable baseload power. It's just, especially when capital costs, are low for that. Like, we should be building more baseload nuclear, frankly.
Do you know how long it takes to get nuclear online and running from start to finish?
It's not quick.
Like
none of it's
quick. It depends on
right?
the country, probably 5 to 10 years. In developed countries, it's on the high end of that.
Yeah.
Now, if you had a Manhattan style project where, we built some of the early reactors in, the 60s and 70s, those were built, some of which I think were built in 3 to 4 years. Okay. So it can be done faster.
Still a very long time though.
Yeah.
For where we're at today.
Yeah.
But putting, I guess, oil production back online and
Yeah.
drilling.
And I noticed-
I feel like we could get that done a little quicker, right?
Yeah, and there are nuclear reactors that have been taken out of service that could potentially be put back into service.
And Germany's talking about refiring up the coal stations, which is...
Right, and I'm
yeah.
sure a lot of people are pissed off about, but I mean, we literally have... What other option do people have?
Well,
is my question.
Germany's also come out with a set of protocols for this winter on how to reduce their consumption of energy, which is also quite alarming. You know, no heating in public places or halls or corridors or things like that. So I think they're going to really suffer this.
I saw something pretty wild, a news article about how China has a lot of EVs. They have a very good EV charging infrastructure compared to everywhere else on the globe, and they're having issues with that because of the power or the energy crisis, blackouts. You know, how are these people going to charge their cars? How are they going to get around? And it's like people, it's all kind of coming around full circle, the consequences of our power grid not being stable and abundant, you know, abundance of power. And so what are we going to do when we have all these EVs that need energy that we can't get them charged? How are people going to drive around? And so now this is all coming to the surface in China.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, EVs are not a total solution to the climate problem because EVs use electricity to charge, right? And so it really comes down to, well, what does your base load look like for electricity? Do you have enough? Do you have a surplus? Can you create energy at a low cost? I mean, energy literally forms the bedrock of prosperity globally.
Totally.
So it's a problem across many countries for various reasons right now. I know China's dealing with a shortage of hydroelectric power because of the drought, the 1,000-year drought there or whatever that we seem to have every 10 years or every 5 years now. But that's again why I think like nuclear has to play a role. And China and India are aggressively now going after new nuclear builds, which I think is good because their power demand is increasing. Like developed markets, Europe, Americas, the demand for electricity isn't growing that fast, even though we are starting to transition to EVs. But the real growth in global demand is in places like China, India, Southeast Asia, here in Indonesia.
Yep.
So that's why we can't like use coal for that long term. Otherwise, we're making all these problems worse potentially with climate. So I don't see a better solution than just increasing massively nuclear, which has its drawbacks. Like in the U.S., we've been terrible at building it. Construction overruns, time overruns, but when it's done well, it provides a really amazing source of baseload generation. Got to fix the safety aspects too.
Yes,
Right, the big blow up.
Yeah.
Radiation.
Japan.
That little minor nuance.
That little issue. God, man, why can't things just be simple?
There's this statistic like it's this much. A fistful of uranium can power someone's whole life.
Yeah.
That's how powerful uranium
Crazy.
is. But obviously it's very contentious and it needs to be done well. I think France does it quite well.
They do.
They have a lot
Send
of...
France or all around the world to set things up. Get it done. Get it done, world.
Also on that note, let's talk about inflation and kind of what we're seeing. I know, Leanne, I think you had some thoughts on like inflation, even here in Bali, right? Like we hear about a lot of developed nations and obviously the energy crisis, but like what are you seeing day to day and how do you think locals and just average people are dealing with it?
I think they're feeling the pinch here. I mean, when I talk to my friends and my staff, my housekeeper even, she's feeling the pinch. And even just to go grocery shopping at the market, the eggs, I went to buy some eggs the other day because that's what they requested from me. I help out a few people here. And I looked at the price of eggs and I'm like, why have they just doubled?
What was the price? I'm curious to, and I'm going to compare it to the U.S.
It was a 2,000 rupiah an egg at a little store. I'm sure you can get them cheaper as well, but prior to that they were 1,000. So that's 6 cents US or something.
But it's recently doubled.
Yes, it's recently doubled.
Wow.
So
What do you think caused that?
That's a lot. So, I mean, inflation in Indonesia is running at just under 5%, but I think on the ground it's at least triple that.
Right.
Yeah. And in regards to fuel, we've just been talking about fuel. They have huge fuel subsidies that the Indonesian government has been pumping into the country for a long time because they have about 10% of the population live under the poverty line, which is $1 a day, I think is the statistic, something like that. So they keep fuel accessible for everybody so that food and production stays low, but it's also a false economy because it disrupts and a wealthier set of the population use the majority of fuel consumption and get all the benefits of it. So it's a very contentious thing that the government does. They've just put another $20 billion into it in June to keep prices low. So even though fuel subsidies are here, I still see inflation causing pain amongst the locals. So,
and I don't know how good the housing data is here, but just on the ground, what we've seen kind of shopping, it's like feels like things are double or triple from pre-COVID prices.
Absolutely. Villa rentals have doubled or tripled. Monthly rentals, hotels, because of course Bali was shut down for so long, and now there's this boom again. Everybody's sort of coming here and figuring out also if it's a place they could stay longer in, like yourselves.
So you're saying we're part of the problem.
We are.
So I'm kind of glad I built my house during the pandemic.
Yeah,
so
it was a good trade, wasn't it?
It was
Very
a good. Trade.
So can I ask you then, do the locals see, tourists, especially those, for instance, people like us that maybe want to stay longer, do they see that as a positive for the economy because it's bringing in revenue, or is it a negative because it's causing potential inflation in housing prices, more congestion, things like that? Do you think?
Look, I think overall everyone's happy to have their jobs back. It's an island that relies on tourism, and most people were out of work.
Yeah.
So they realised how heavily this island relies on that. So they're very happy to see that up and running again. So yeah, and then you've got the side effect of that, which is pollution, congestion, inflated prices for properties. I mean, for them, they've already got their houses and stuff, so they're reaping some of the benefits after years of having nothing. So that's lovely. But yeah, it's a double-edged sword, of course, with too many people all at once, and yeah, as you've seen, some of the traffic jams. Yeah.
And then I guess on the other side of the spectrum, you've got Japan that is still very much limiting tourism. I think they're trying to open it up with these tiny little measures, but I know
they started to open up. I think they just had a big move.
I didn't realize they were still shut.
Oh,
they
yeah.
were.
I mean, their COVID numbers are at record highs, which is interesting. They managed to basically kick the can down the road.
Right.
And their deaths are at all-time high. So I think that in their mind, it's still the scary thing. The case fatality rate is very low, so I think it's still kind of overblown. But for a long time, to be a tourist in Japan, you had to go with an organized group tour. And I think in June and July, it was something like 8,000 tourists in the entire country. Oh, right. And more recently, they said, yeah, you can go to Japan, but you still have to book through a travel agent for some reason. I don't know. They're taking these little measures.
Travel agent? Do they exist anymore?
Exactly. It's like they're making these moves that when you look at it, it's like, how does that help the situation at all or protect people at all? So I don't know. But the point is Osaka, huge city, they're suffering. There's talks of bankruptcy, and it just places that are still closed to tourism are really, really hurting, where, the pendulum here in Bali has kind of swung. I know Thailand's starting to pick up. It's going to be their high season in the winter.
It's a tough one. I mean, here in Indonesia, you had ripple effects of the hotel staff losing their job, the man at the market selling the straw hats, and the people that made the straw hats. And it was such a ripple effect that really hit the whole island.
Yeah.
I can see that being here, how much tourism is a huge part of this island.
So to bring that all back in terms of Japan and Indonesia, they're happy that things have opened up again. So yeah.
Good. Well, what else should we talk about? I know we've talked about stocks. Crypto's still down. What have you been trading recently?
Just houses, no. I've been just trying to keep an eye on the markets. I haven't traded so much recently, but I think there's been lots of good opportunities. But Nikki and I have just been talking about how we've missed them because we've all been socialising
or
and
sleeping.
Getting used to Asian. How are you going with the Asian time zone and your trading?
Not well. Not well at all. I mean, we've been here for a few weeks, but like you said, it's been very, we've been going out to eat, we've been going to beach clubs, we've been, just hanging out and doing social things, which I'm very grateful to be doing. I I definitely am finding the time zone. I knew this was going to be a challenge, and I would probably have to adjust the way I manage trading. I haven't really been doing a lot of swing trading because it just hasn't been the market for it. But now things have shifted and the environment's back. And even with the Powell panic that we had, recently, things are still moving.
Yes.
So
there's been some amazing trades to take, just haven't taken them.
Yeah. So I guess it's been messing with my mental stuff a little bit, which, I'm big on.
Yes.
But we all have, things that can get us.
Yeah. What's the biggest challenge, do you think, adjusting to time zones?
Well, I'm definitely not used to not seeing the action live. I know in crypto, you guys are both in crypto, you guys have 24/7 markets.
Yes.
You're used to not seeing action live all the time because things can pop off. Is there a specific time that things pop off mostly in crypto, or does it happen anytime, any hour of the day?
There's definitely, I know in Asia, which you'll be yet to discover, there's definitely 3 a.m. for me, so I expect to wake up and see some sort of action that happened at 3 a.m, which is what I can't even work it out for US times.
It'd
but
be like,
that's
that'd be
3
like market
p.m.
close.
Market
Market close,
which makes a lot of sense.
Stock market close. That is.
Yep.
So
you do have a flood of volume for market open US and market close and Europe time
even
and Asian
in
time.
crypto.
That's why I think setting alerts and limit orders works a lot better in crypto because you can't be there for everything.
Yeah.
Is that what you do?
Yeah, I set limit orders and I've become way more comfortable with that now. And I know that I'm going to miss price action. I know that I'm going to miss the perfect top, the perfect bottoms. We know we can't get those. But Nikki, we were talking about limit orders.
Yeah, I'm not used to that because I'm very much okay, if price is strong into an area, into a target, I'm okay, I'm going to hold and watch and trail a stop, as it's moving, and I'm maximizing my returns and my gains there. So I'm not used to that. So I guess I have to just learn to get more comfortable with the limit orders, and adapt to Asian time zone.
Adapt or die.
I know, but it has messed with me a little bit mentally, but I'm working on it.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to feel like you're I've noticed I maybe am not going towards my plan exactly as I normally would. I may close, something because I don't want to sleep through it, and I'm okay, if I can't watch it, then I'm not going to hold it, right? Yes. So things like that, little things that I know I could have done better, but this is why we...
Do you want me to come around to the house
talk
and
it
ring
out
a
and
stock
work it
market
out?
bell?
Ding, ding, ding,
ding. Just set alarms. Set your alerts on your phone.
See, I'm not good at waking up once I'm asleep. Once I'm asleep, I'm out. I'm not getting up at 4 a.m. to see what the close did to make a move. I'm sleeping.
My attitude is I trade to live. I don't live to trade, right? I'm going to miss setups. But if you're dialed in and you're looking at the areas and you set your orders, you're going to do better than just disconnecting completely.
I mean, I have stayed up till 3 a.m, but it's very destructive to your health. So as I discovered.
I'm sure I'll have a few nights like that.
If you have something that's
Every
going
now and
parabolic and you're watching it, but
Yes.
to do that every day is going to
we'll get her used to it. Right?
It helps to get into a routine, which I'm not in yet.
Yeah.
And once I'm in
There's
a routine...
way too many exciting things to see here.
Yeah, and we haven't even scratched the surface of Bali. We haven't even really gotten out of this area, so... Still a lot to do.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
Tell us about your favorite trade over the last couple of years, and then maybe tell us about a trade that, or your worst trade over the last couple of years.
A stinker.
Well, yeah, worst could mean
frustrating.
Doesn't have to be worst loss, but frustrating or something you missed. I'm curious.
My best trade was spotting that Solana setup.
When was it?
The early breakout, or
it was around. I noticed the wedge breaking around $35, and that for me was just screaming for my attention.
the breakout last August?
Was it last August? I can't even remember.
Yeah, the breakout of the accumulation range and basically went from $35-$40 up to over 200. So you got to ride that.
Yeah, I rode that, and I had a lot of conviction about that because I had spent a lot of time on Twitter, and I was just getting all the sentiment. Everyone was on the Solana train. There were memes, music clips. There were Sam Bankman-Fried, memes everywhere. So I was like, I'm going to jump on the Sam train, and it will be a Solana summer. That was what it was. That everyone was touting at the time, Solana summer. So yeah, I rode that one, and again, I didn't pick a perfect top. I had some personal stuff get in the way, time zones, and lost track a little bit, but I still got the meat of the trade.
What do you remember where you got out? Or
I got out between, I scaled out at 150. I mean, I didn't get the top at 200, but 150 down to between 130.
That's
casual,
beautiful
4 to 5x.
Yeah.
Just,
Look, and
no big deal.
The hard thing is in crypto, it's like, well, that was an underperformance.
I know.
Compared to a lot of people.
I know.
It's only a 5x. It wasn't a 1000x.
we're definitely spoiled.
You guys are so spoiled.
Profit
I'm
is
like,
profit.
43% gain, yeah. And you guys are over here
So
like...
I performed very poorly compared to other people I know, with a mere 5x. But that trade was significant to me because I'd watched it. I found the setup. It was the first trade I probably had full conviction about, and I think even in the community I was, saying this is it. This is the one. Let's do it.
You know what I love what you said though? Sentiment. You were following sentiment, and sometimes you do need to go with the herd.
Yes.
If you there, I know we say go against the herd, be a contrarian, but there are those times
running with that
where
herd.
you absolutely have to run with that. I love trading on sentiment so much.
Yes.
Even if it's a fundamentally jacked up stock that I think is total garbage, like GME.
Oh yeah, GME,
whatever.
BBBY,
But it's like
Apron.
I'm in a Blue Apron trade right now, and it's like running while the market is pooping out.
Running
and it's
hot.
like it's just hilarious how these things work sometimes, but
It is.
I love trading sentiment.
And Chris you're really good at reading top sentiment, Chris.
He is.
Yeah, I mean, I look for when things get unsustainable, right? Like Solana on the breakout, there was a lot of bullish sentiment, but it was still early, right? If you had chased and tried to buy too late, like I did, I'll take breakouts late in the cycle, but if it reverses, I cut it off. I call it a graceful exit, where I take a very small loss quickly, right? But obviously, the earlier you are to a large trend, if you can spot that, market sentiment is going to be the thing that drives that price action. You just want to be before 80 or 90% of all the other buyers, right? And you want to be selling before everybody else panics out. Absolutely. So for me, like, I do look for those entries, and that matters, but I also look at times when things are like, okay, this is ridiculous, it's unsustainable. Whenever I'm in an elevator and I hear teenagers bragging about their crypto gains, I'm like, all right, something's off here.
Sentiment.
Well, I knew something to answer your question about my worst thing of the last 2 years. I, a long time ago, had this real gut. This one was a gut thing. I'm like, I'm going to buy a lot of Doge.
Doge?
Doge.
Did you do it when it was all
ridiculous? No, I
popular?
No, way before.
Way
I think
before.
when you guys were in Bali last time. I'm like, I had
Oh,
this-
wow.
So this is like 2019.
Fractions of a cent. Fractions
Yeah.
of a fraction of a cent.
Yeah.
And I had this. I need to buy this. And I need to hold it for a while, and I don't know why. I think you might have even called me. Are you sure you want to?
Hey, no, that's the thing. If you're buying it in accumulation range, your risk to reward is.
I mean, it was the
way
most
better.
obscene thing to buy it back then.
Back
but
then.
I had
Yeah.
this thing in my guts. It was like, yeah, okay, let's do this. And then as time went on, it hadn't moved, and things were popping off. And anyway, I ended up 1 week before Elon started
Pumping.
I'd listened to this podcast, and they were talking about, having capital tied up for so long, you need to work out how much that capital's cost you being tied up, And I'm listening to these old dudes talking. I'm like, they're right. I've got all this capital tied up in Doge, the worst shitcoin ever. What am I doing with my life? This is awful, and I'm missing out on all these other trades. Well, guess what I did?
You sold.
I sold them.
Yeah.
And then it went to 70 cents.
Yep.
So probably
Literally
100 bagger plus type of potential here.
Yeah, left millions on the table.
Oh.
That would have been an obscene amount of money. From a very small amount of money. So that was very painful for me. I did end up doing a few small trades just to ride some of the tails of that euphoria. But on the sentiment side of things, I knew I was at a gym here and I was on the floor doing a class and everyone was talking about buying Doge at 70 cents.
Oh, God, yep.
Oh, no, this is all over. The whole gym's talking about it. I couldn't even go to the class because I didn't want to hear about it.
Yeah. That's how you know market top indicators, right?
That was a top.
Sorry.
That's why I always say, like, don't underestimate what crypto can do, right?
Yes,
but you couldn't have predicted that the richest guy in the world was going to go on SNL and start pumping it. And then you're going to have guys like Mark Cuban hopping on the bandwagon. Like, those things are very, very rare. And I don't know, what did you learn from that? Or what did you take away? Or what would you do differently? I know hindsight's 20/20, but if a situation like this presents itself again, would you even take a trade like that? If you did, how would you manage it? Have you thought about anything like that?
I've thought a lot about the end of last year, and I'm only hodling the big boy king,
Bitcoin.
I don't want to hodl other stuff. So what I learned from it was, whilst that at the time was a great thing to hold on to because it did stupid things, you should really only put in an amount that you're willing to just forget about for 10 years if you want to. And really, I'm not interested in holding other things. I'm interested in trading other things. So what I learned from that is I'm not really interested in trying to pick those 100,000x coins anymore, but I will absolutely trade trends when that opportunity comes up. So.
I agree with that, right? Like, you can sit there and you can bag hold something that's dead for months or years on end, or you can stay dialed in, look for an accumulation range breakout, and have a much faster 100x, right? Like, you don't have to sit through years and question yourself and listen to podcasts and get talked out of it, right? It's like, if you identify the momentum and you still get in early, maybe you didn't get in as low, you paid for confirmation, but you still caught the meat of the move and the hold time was 10% or something, right?
I think that's so important, the meat of the move. And that's what at Skill Incubator, you all emphasize that a lot, and it's great. And as a trader, as you progress, you realize that it's like you don't have to be perfect. What were your best trades of the year with the stocks last year? Did you have a particular one that stood out?
Was GME the best for us?
Well, you guys bought the breakout at 4. You just closed too early, right?
But I still rode mine up until like the 40-50 range.
Okay.
I can't recall though. GME may have been more of a 2020 event. I know it was like early 2021 when it was. It's funny because earlier you were saying, was it August of last year? A year ago feels like a whole different universe because like the change from such a bull market to such a bear market just in the last 6 to 12 months has been so extreme.
Good point.
I think back and it feels like it was years ago, but that was just like a year ago. 2021 when we were popping off still, but I think GME was like early 2021, so it's maybe a year and a half now. We had some really good trades in the SPAC world, like Charge Point, Weed Maps. We rode some of those up like very quickly to like 3-4x's, and we were pretty nimble there, which was nice. Like, we got out a lot of those before they completely puked. I still hold some Weed Maps, and it's puked, but we got out of most of the high risk stuff in that area, so we traded it pretty well. But there's still regrets. Like, I still have a lot of the trades over the last 1 to 2 years. It was like we nailed the macro on this show. Like, we even said, like, look, inflation's going to be a problem. We said it before most other people. It was even on their radar. We said this is going to cause a shift in the market to favor lower risk over higher risk. Multiples could compress. But I still held some stuff in the portfolio that I should have let go sooner. And so stuff like, even like things like runners on like Charge Point or stuff like that, where I could have just completely gotten out before they took a big hit. I had a BNPL stock out of Australia that was probably the biggest mistake that I've made in the last couple of years. And I was basing that trade off of like relative valuation. So I was looking at other stocks in its industry that were doing well, and I was like, well, this one's trading at a discount. kind of ignoring the fact that this whole industry was about to get decimated if the market turned. I think I've learned some good lessons from that, though, and you know.
I love talking about regrets and lessons because it's the evolution of trading, and we'll always have them.
Yeah.
Each time it's just a different thing.
They make you better and better. It's so cliche, but it's so true.
And as long as you don't make the same mistakes over and over again.
Right.
That's the thing. Learn and move on and make different mistakes.
Every market environment is it's kind of the same story over and over. Like this had the essence of the dot-com bubble. Valuations got overstretched. Stocks went crazy. And then they all sold off, right? It's like the same thing happened here, but it had a different... everything has a different, kind of tweak to it a little bit. So I think with our scenario, the shift from pure exuberant bullishness to bearishness happened so fast that it was very difficult to time it with confidence. Could we have shorted a hell of a ton more and done really well with that? Yeah, I mean, Trav had hedges on, which was awesome that you did that. But we could have shorted so many stocks.
Yeah, we were talking about that.
But we were coming off of a period where shorts were getting run over like crazy, and they were getting they were pounded with pain.
Yeah.
And we didn't want to, or I'll speak for myself. I didn't want to just jump into that and start shorting the hell out of everything just to get squeezed. So it was kind of tough.
It was. Even in crypto, there were so many short opportunities. I missed them. But yeah, it was a quick, volatile time. There was uncertainty. Was it going to bounce back? We were going to see a COVID bounce like we had. It happened very quickly. Yeah, couldn't wrap our heads around it.
That's why I really like having the managed futures accounts. I know not everybody can do that, but they did that for me, right? I didn't have to think about timing. I just know that when markets crash, managed futures do really well, and year to date, it's kicking ass. So, yeah, that's where I think diversification can help too, right? Like I know in crypto world, that's almost blasphemy to say, "Oh, how dare you not have all your wealth in crypto?" Well, I don't like 90% drawdowns in my wealth, you know.
Exactly.
Oh, there's nothing wrong with those.
Yeah.
I know that you guys are all used to it. It's mind-boggling.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about debt, specifically student loan debt. I know this is something that in America is a huge deal right now. Leanne, is student debt in Australia a big deal?
I mean, it's not a big deal in that it's a topic of conversation that everyone talks about. And I know from American news and talking to you guys and friends, it is a big deal. People have a lot of debt. It's on their backs for a long time. Yeah. Student debt in Australia, we have a scheme where the government does fund your university. That's not a problem. And it doesn't have interest applied to it. So it's indexed, so it stays relatively low. And you don't have to pay it back until you meet a threshold of around $47,000, $48,000. And even then, it's only 1% of your salary that the employer withholds. I'm a little bit out of the loop with it, but that's what I do know about it.
Yeah.
And, student debt, I mean, most people have debt under 50,000 Australian dollars. And the average is around 20,000, which is 15,000 US or something.
So ours, I think, is maybe a little double than that. It's like 30-something thousand is the average.
30,000, yeah.
And you have interest applied to it?
Oh, yeah.
Right.
And it's the one thing that you cannot write off in bankruptcy.
Right.
You can get rid of most debt. Student loan debt stays with you forever. So we've created the system where you convince 17 and 18-year-olds to take on 6 figures of debt with an uncertain future in a business of college that has gone up way faster than the average inflation rates. I mean, that's what happens when a government will basically guarantee the debt and make it risk-free for the universities to just keep raising prices. It's ridiculous.
I mean, I often hear that people have 100, 200,000, and it's quite normal to have that much debt.
That's more so for, like, if you're going for a master's or a doctorate.
Yes.
Most people are getting their bachelor's degree. But once you get into,
and Australia
graduate
too,
school,
you're looking at more money.
You're gonna, and higher income jobs, attorneys, doctors. They'll have not that many people, when you look at the data, have those types of numbers. Most people have, the...
Is there incentive to pay it off quicker? Like, do you get discount?
I mean, less interest.
See, I think Australia, when I did 2 degrees, and again, it wasn't an issue for me because the debt thing to pay back wasn't a big deal. I got a discount back then. I think it was about 20%. And now I think they offer you 10% if you pay it off quickly, reduction.
That's nice.
Yeah, they incentivize you
nice.
paying it off quickly.
Yeah.
So I remember thinking, I don't want the government to own my degree. I want to own it. So I paid it off very quickly.
A true libertarian.
Oh, yes. You're not owning any part of me.
So one of the problems with, maybe it's not a problem, but we haven't seen enough time for it to play out, is a lot of people are on income-driven repayment plans with their student debts.
Right.
So what that means is typically the government will only make you pay about 10% of your discretionary income as a payment.
10%.
So
okay,
what happens is these students go into the workforce, they pay their minimum payment, that's based on their income,
and it accrues
and it's negatively accruing against them, negative amortization, right?
So it's not
so
good debt.
the
So you're not going to get
payment-
ahead of it. Yeah.
So a lot of people are looking at their balances and they're saying, holy shit, I've been paying on this loan for 5, 7, 10 years and I owe more than what I originally took out. And they're not understanding that process. But the whole thing is after 20 years, if you're on an IDR, after 20 years, the government will forgive the debt, right?
Right.
And so that's why they're doing it. The idea is...
Run out the clock.
The idea is to run out the clock, right?
Okay.
And then typically, there's tax consequences, I think, that you have to consider. But the Biden administration just announced that they're doing this big revamp, student loan forgiveness, $10K for most people that they're just going to forgive for student loans, up to $20K for lower income individuals.
And they're not forgiving everybody.
Well, they're switching the 20-year time horizon to forgiving the debt to 10.
Right.
So basically, if you're on an IDR, you're never going to pay down your debt. You're just going to wait 10 years and hope that it gets forgiven, right? So that's kind of the way you play the student loan system, I guess. But how much stress must that be for somebody to just continue to look at that balance and know that it's like negatively amortizing and just seeing it and just like hoping it all works out, just hoping they forgive it and it all works
disturbing.
out.
I mean,
it's got to be stressful.
I think in Australia, it's a small percentage of your wage, so you don't notice it. So and it, like it said, goes up in increments, 1%, 2%. But it's not 10%, or and then it's also accruing interest, which is a difficult scenario. And I imagine if you're going into a partnership with somebody, you're both coming to the relationship with double the debt if you've both got university degrees. So how do you?
And then
it's
a thing of the golden handcuffs. It's like if you become a doctor or a lawyer and you have $250,000 or more in debt, you feel like you can't quit that job even if you hate it. I've talked to several lawyers that were like suicidal because of that. Like I needed to get out of this, and thankfully the ones I know got out and were able to use their skill set in different areas. But can't imagine
in that profession to pay back. I'm guaranteed this amount of money. In that profession, I need to pay it back. I've accrued the most debt because it was the most prestigious degree. Or I can see how that's a massive trap. And it doesn't really give you a lot of choices, does it?
Yeah.
I'm starting to see kind of the mess up here. Let me rephrase that. I'm starting to see how this is screwing with people, the forgiveness stuff, because I'm getting messages from people that are like, I'm about to take out a student debt soon. Am I going to get 10K forgiveness? And then I'm getting messages from people that are saying, I paid my student loan debt off in my, during COVID, and my loan provider is not going to refund me the money. And it's like, it's starting to become a little bit of a mess.
Yeah.
And people that paid off their loans are pissed off. People that are about to take loans out are pissed off.
Understandably.
And so it's a very, very complex thing.
And I think for me, one of the biggest issues is that it doesn't solve the fundamental problems of colleges charging too much money for degrees that don't pay off.
Yep.
And, where are colleges' roles in this? Because, we let these debt balances grow. We let these colleges market to all these people, claim that you had to have a degree to get ahead in life. And now, the students have accumulated debt, that is a result of going to these places, many of which didn't even finish their degrees.
I think a third haven't finished.
I spent 2 years at the hedge fund in I think it was 2010 timeframe, looking at the student at the for-profit college sector. I spent enough time actually looking through loan trusts, doing straight up Michael Burry work, looking through detailed loan docs that I guarantee you only 100 people ever look at. Where I'm looking at student loan securitizations, and I'm looking at default rates by school, by time frame, by cohort, and I was like, oh my God, there are these for-profit universities where the default rates are 40 to 50% of all students that go to this set of schools are defaulting on their student loans within 5 years.
Wow.
Was that the ITT Techs of the world?
ITT Tech, Apollo, University of Phoenix,
a lot of those have been sued to oblivion.
Thankfully, that trade actually worked. We shorted a bunch of them.
Nice.
They had some government actions taken against them, but a lot of them still live on. There's publicly traded ones still. They're still making crazy high profit margins. And so, you've also got a lot of the traditional universities, one of which I went to, that are just high cost. You spend 4 years. I know we talked about offline, we were talking about how in Australia, you don't spend as much on things living in a really nice dorm room and paying for all your food. A lot of people will live at home and while they go to school.
Quite accessible to, there's usually some sort of university.
Uni.
Yeah.
There's something accessible to it's I mean, people do live out of home, but it's still more manageable than paying for dorm rooms, and a lot of overseas students do that. And I mean, education in Australia is one of our top 20 commodities that we have overseas students, $1 billion industry, but for Australian citizens it's a manageable thing to undertake to go to university. But I'd love the narrative to change, that you don't need a university degree to succeed.
Go to trade school, be an electrician, and make 6 figures plus.
I remember when I was college age, I tried going to a community college, and I'm like, this just isn't for me. I'm either going to be a millionaire entrepreneur or I'm going to be homeless and destitute, because it doesn't work for a lot of people.
I can confirm that.
Yeah.
I think you've done okay.
I think finally the mindset is shifting, and people are realizing, after watching, friends and family of theirs go through this over the last 10, 20 years, people are finally waking up to this idea that yes, it's great to get a liberal arts education and a well-rounded education, but if you're going to spend 4 years doing it, spend $250,000, and you don't have the income afterwards to be able to repay that, well, then that's a luxury that maybe you don't have, and most people shouldn't take on. And so people are becoming more ROI focused. I would still like to see the colleges help tackle the problem. They're not being held accountable in all of this, and we can debate all day long about whether or not loans should be forgiven or not, but what we do need to happen going forward is that Americans as a whole need to figure out that it doesn't make sense to continue to do this ad nauseum and let colleges continue to raise prices above inflation forever.
Yep.
Yeah,
exactly.
I think the reason Biden did this is because he kept pushing back the deadline for student payments to start up again.
Yeah.
He did it however many times I've lost count. And when you do that, it's like lifestyle creep is happening with these borrowers. And there's no way he could have just expected them to just start paying their loans again, after 2 years or however long of not paying them.
Yeah.
It's
they let the problem get out of control.
They let the problem get out of control, and now here we are, and this is
kind of convenient timing. Election cycles.
Well,
there's the whole conspiracy over it. Are they doing it to buy votes in the midterm elections?
Yeah.
Probably some of that
They
is
had that
true.
conversation for sure.
Of course. They're what can we do for our base of voters? I'm sure that's part of it. But it's I don't know. We could debate it, and there's going to be angry people in the comments no matter what we say.
Yeah, true.
It's a hot button
At
issue.
the end of the day, it doesn't fix the issue of overpriced college and selling this dream that is not true for a lot of people.
And I think if we're going to leave people with anything, it's probably that you have to be responsible for yourself and figure out the ROI that makes sense for you. If you've got family money, millions of dollars, to go spend 4 or 5 years screwing off and you don't care about the ROI of your degree, great, go do that. But if you're like most people, you need to think about what are you getting out of the degree, whether it's a trade school or a 4-year university. Are you going to be able to handle the cost of that, over the next 10 years?
Yeah. What do they call them? Tradies?
Tradies.
Tell us about tradies.
Yeah.
And we need to make tradies cool again.
Yes.
They're very cool in Australia.
Yeah.
Very
What is a
cool.
tradie?
A tradie is a tradesman that, plumber, electrician, carpenter, you name it.
Yeah. All the things that the U.S. has kind of said is like lower status.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So weird.
So we have streams of education, particularly in Melbourne, where I was from, where students that weren't interested in the academic side, they could do part apprenticeship and part study at high school. So 3 days a week we're out on the job and 2 days a week we're at school. So there's a lot of schemes like that around Australia. But I used to enforce to those students that you don't need PS. I'm overeducated and you don't need it. And I'm also running my own business. I never, I was of the philosophy that you can really make it on your own without the need to go to university. So I took a particular interest in encouraging those students to start their own businesses and take on trades because it's a service. Services don't go anywhere. Everybody needs them.
Plumbing, HVAC.
You're not going to automate
Plastering,
that. Not anytime
roof
soon.
tiling. I mean, people are finding it hard to find a roof tiler these days. So that's a job that's in high demand and really good salaries and there's so many things. I just talked to a friend the other day. He's got a new job doing installing roller doors. So he's left, so there's so many service-based industries where you can make really good careers and really good money. And in Australia, everybody knows that tradies make great money.
Mm-hmm. And they're kind of like, ladies kind of are attracted to that, right? In Australia?
I mean, man in uniform, right?
Friday night at the traffic lights. Who's in a ute?
He's got the tool
we
belt
say
on.
Ute. What do you call it again?
Pickup trucks.
Wait, what do you call it?
Ute.
A pickup truck is a ute?
It's got a
Like
tray,
a utility,
tray on the back.
like a utility truck.
Oh my gosh, that's adorable.
Ute. They love my accent.
Yeah, so for anybody that doesn't know, Leanne, it's so funny all the things that Americans say and the way Australians say it. It's so much cuter.
Hanging out with American friends is always fun.
Yeah.
So yes, when ladies see a ute, they're definitely interested.
That's
Yeah, in
funny.
the U.S., it definitely sends a different vibe.
It does. It's different vibes for sure, but that can change. I mean, hell, if they're doing it in Australia, in the U.S., I'm sure eventually, if you're an electrician a plumber making $200,000 a year, what woman doesn't want to?
Well, exactly.
Hey.
I mean, this is the thing. It is an appreciated industry in Australia. So I'm not sure where that shift happened, but I think that respect. And if these guys are women, men are women.
Yep, women too.
I talked to an electrician that was working on a ranch doing just some small work for me, but it was a husband-wife team, and he's like, "Yeah, I make my own hours. I have my truck. I dropped $100,000 into a truck and whatever supplies he needs." He's like, "Man, I'm making bank. I'm making at least mid 6 figures profit a year, and like living a good lifestyle."
They're probably laughing at all these people taking on student debt right now.
Well, that's it. And, you can work in an office, which, let's take the average office worker, and then you take the average tradesman. The tradesman's taking off at 3 p.m. on a Friday and going camping.
True.
And the office commuters drudging themselves home at 7 p.m. on the train through the traffic and getting home. So they're living their best lives, tradesmen.
And not everybody is meant to sit at a desk for 8 hours a day.
That's it.
And I think it's a great place for people that need to move, need to do something. That's a good career.
And the world needs degenerates like us to trade a few hours a week and live a really nice lifestyle.
Or
as well.
sleep through your trades.
Yes. We need better desk. The life of a trader, though, we need something with the desk situation.
See, I've got a whole setup back home. Like, I've got a good old setup.
Okay.
So that's
Standing,
what I'm...
sitting?
I mean, ergonomic chair, Tempur-Pedic on my booty.
Tempur-Pedic.
I got a stand-up desk, and it's really nice. I need to use it more. I need to train myself to use it more.
electric?
Yeah, you just press a button, and you can raise it and lower it.
We
It's
have
really
got
nice.
those here. I just haven't had one yet.
I highly recommend it. It takes a little while to get used to. And sometimes you do get fatigue standing, but once you get used to it, it's pretty nice.
Well, the good thing about trading, you can be anywhere.
True, you could be on your bed, laying on your laptop.
You can be on the
I'm terrible at that. I'll just
In a
lay
pool.
down on a pool chair or wherever. I don't care. Ergonomics.
Oh yeah, see, I'm all about the ergonomics, but I have a
Yeah.
messed up
That
back,
I do know.
so I have to be.
You've visited many mattress.
Many of chiropractors.
I do like having the big screens laid out. You know, like I
Oh,
feel
yeah.
like
How
I'm
many
like at a
screens do you have?
I've got at home one of my setups is just one very large screen, like a
Yes.
really large
34-inch
curved
wide.
monitor. Yeah. And that's nice because I can put up 2 or 3 windows stacked horizontally. And it's nice. It's like a command center. Like it almost feels like it's way overpowered.
Gaming center.
Yeah, it's like it is. It's a gaming.
Like you're
PC.
gonna take off.
Yeah, but it's
Take
nice.
off
I can have
flight.
I can have an Excel model up here. I can have charts over here.
Can I make a generalization? I think men love multiple screens.
No,
Oh,
no.
you two-
Women.
Oh.
Look, there
You got a
aren't.
widescreen.
Look, there
Yeah.
aren't many female traders in this space.
No,
you and
there's
I
not,
are
yeah.
a very,
We're in a
big
small
minority.
percentage.
I love my screens.
Okay. Do you
I've
know-
got a big one and another big one.
Do you not get all?
No,
Oh.
I'm like, man, I'm getting
can
so
cope
much.
with
I can
2.
see everything.
But 6 or something. I once had someone tell me I couldn't possibly be a profitable trader because I didn't have 6 screens.
Oh my
That's
god.
not true. That's not true.
The whole like massive trading setup thing is I mean, yeah, back in the day trading days where you could profitably trade 15 different markets, take 100 trades a day, that shit doesn't work anymore. Swing trading and position trading is where you make a killing, right?
Agreed.
And to do that, you need one laptop. Is it nice to have a big screen?
Yes.
Sure. But for me, it's all about being mobile.
It depends, like, because I do multiple things. I'll be, like, doing financial planning shit over
Shopping
here,
on
and then
the other.
trading over here, and then, CFO
Lulu-
stuff in the
Lululemon.
middle.
Lululemon online shopping.
Buying Lululemon over here. So, yeah, I'm like, my multiple screen action is for my multiple tasking.
That's fun.
There's probably a curve where monitors can improve your productivity up to 2 or 3, and then any more monitors after that you become less effective. And,
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like people with 6, 7, 8 screens, I'm like, you don't even know what's happening on these
That's
4
what I mean.
screens.
That's
very true.
You can't even pay attention to that
Very
many.
overwhelming.
That's
Yeah.
facts.
Well, Leanne, thanks for joining us today. This
It's
was
been a
fun.
pleasure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Always appreciate your insights and help with everything here in Bali. You're like our
What have you loved,
Spirit
before
guide.
we finish, what have you loved the most so far about this place?
beach clubs.
Yeah.
Yeah, hitting the
You love techno music.
Yeah, for sure. No, just hanging out, enjoying the vibes, cafes, food. I mean, so many good restaurants. Like, it's crazy the variety of food that's here. And Thailand's great. Thai food is amazing, but up there it's much less diverse on the food scene. Here it's like everything you could
Mecca.
want. Yeah.
Yes.
Avocado toast for
Avocado.
days.
Smoothie
Yeah,
bowls.
the food has been great.
Mm.
I've really enjoyed the cafe scene here.
It's a scene.
It's a scene. Big
For sure.
vibes.
Yep. Trav, what about you, man? Favorite
Definitely the food. Avoiding near death every day on the scooter. I
There
just
you
love
go.
riding that thing around. and the Balinese people, I said it before, I'll keep saying it, just how kind and generous and wonderful the Balinese are.
Yep.
Refreshing.
Yeah.
thing? Awesome. Well, thanks again for being here.
It's freezing. I love it.
These Americans
Yeah.
like AC.
Oh, aircon, yeah.
Aircon.
We
Yep.
love the aircon.
That's right.
We're
Well, guys,
addicted.
subscribe to the new YouTube channel, youtube.com/We Talk Money. We're hosting all the full episodes over there, splitting up clips on different channels and different places. But yeah, do that. Subscribe to the audio podcast. Thanks to Y-Charts for sponsoring the show. Anything else you guys want to say before we sign off?
For those of you all who want to come work with us or learn from us, hang with Leanne, hang in the channels, trade together. We've got our community, We Talk Money. Or not We Talk Money. This is We Talk Money.
WeTalkMoney.com/community.
WeTalkMoney.com/community.
Yes.
Our skill incubator
And we
community.
talk about many things.
Check
It's
it
very
out.
incubated.
Come join us.
Yes. All right, guys. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Cheers.
Take care.
Ciao.